Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willie Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynne Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. I am your host, Willie Hassell, your gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And yes, she is the lovely, she is the mystical, she is the oh-so-mysterious Lynne Nickerson. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Willie. I'm doing great. I'm thawing out. It's been a bit chilly, hasn't it?
Oh, it has been a bit chilly. It's been more than a bit chilly.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to this.
I think my bones are frozen already, and it's only November.
Look, I know we got about 4 months of this, don't we? I'm saying 4 because it's going to be an early spring.
Oh, okay. So we only get a total of 6 months of winter weather.
Not this year.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I put it in order for a 4-month winter instead of 6 months of snow. So tonight we don't have a guest.
No, we don't.
But we're prepared.
We're prepared. Yeah, you're my guest and I'm your guest.
That's right.
Is that how this is going to work?
Yes, we were planning on having an interesting discussion on Strange New England. That's the title of tonight's show. And you know, we had thought about calling the show maybe Strange New Hampshire. But then after doing so much research on the paranormal, we came across a lot of interesting stories from all over New England that I think merit mention. So we didn't want to just limit our discussion to New Hampshire and the Seacoast area alone. So in our research, we've cast our paranormal nets into the far reaches of the greater New England area, and we've uncovered a treasure trove of legends, tales, and myths that go way beyond any simple ghost story. So for our listeners, we hope that you'll find some of these tales interesting, and you will find that they do stretch the believability factor to the breaking point. But if you'll continue to listen and keep an open mind, maybe you'll come to understand that there's an element of truth to each one of these tales. Now, some of them have received honorable mention during one or more of our shows, while others may be completely new to our audience. But Willie and I wanted to take this opportunity to expand on some of the brief tales that we've already mentioned, as well as introduce some of the lesser-known stories that have had little exposure. And also, I'd like to preface this show by saying that some of what we're about to discuss cannot easily be proven because the evidence may be anecdotal, just something that someone said that they experienced or that they saw, while other tales are well documented and have been witnessed by more than one person. But I think you'll find that all of them have stood the test of time. So, without further ado, tonight's agenda includes, we've got 5 different tales that we're planning on talking about tonight, if time allows. Number 1 is a well-documented, if not bizarre, case of witchcraft and lithobolia in, of all places, Newcastle, New Hampshire. And this occurred in 1692, 10 years before the trials in Salem. Our second story regards the sighting of the New Hampshire Devil in Danville, New Hampshire, in 2001. A third tale concerns the well-publicized life of who I call Dr. Death, and he was born in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. And then there's a story about a curse that is connected to the Saco River, which runs from the White Mountains down to the ocean, and where it enters the ocean, it splits the town of Saco and Biddeford, Maine. And then our last story is, hopefully we'll have time for all this, a portal found in the state of Massachusetts that defies explanation, which even the government is interested in from time to time. And that is one of at least three known mysterious triangles in the New England area. No, actually two in the New England area, and then one in Utah at the Skinwalker Ranch, because one is in Connecticut. And Willie wanted to discuss the one in Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. So I think we were going to start our discussion with the New Hampshire Devil.
Okay, well, first I want to say I like that term, cast our paranormal net.
Yeah, we have, haven't we, huh?
That's what we have done. We have cast a net over the entire New England, searching for all those little strange and odd stories.
We've come up with quite a bit.
I think the bottom line here is, you don't necessarily have to take them all as being absolute truth. But we're going to have fun talking about them.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty much
some of them are
the
legends.
idea?
Yeah,
legends,
So, well, some are legends, some are myths.
Some are fact, yes.
But some are well documented, so we have to consider them factual.
Right.
Especially since there have been many witnesses on a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. Like the first one here. It may sound very strange, but yes, there were a number of witnesses.
Yeah, that's quite a few, isn't it?
Well, that's more than 5, but less than 2 dozen. I think that's how that actually goes.
The New English.
the New English. Yeah, okay.
I hope that's no English teachers.
No, that's the Willy English. That's what that is. But anyways, this story takes place in Danville, New Hampshire, of all places, and it's called, it's about the devil monkey, is what it is.
And that's not far from here.
That is not far from here.
Which is really creepy.
That's right over that way, over there somewhere.
Heading west.
And then take a left, and it's down the street, yeah. And
that's about 20 miles from here.
Yeah, about 20 miles from here, yeah.
Well, at least the New Hampshire monkey could not walk it in a night, Willie. So we're okay.
I wouldn't be too sure about that.
Well, all right. Well, tell me about the story.
It hasn't been seen in years, so
okay.
I wouldn't worry too much. But since 1923, the Appalachians have been believed to be the stomping ground of what people are calling the devil's monkey, or the devil monkeys, rather. They're thought to lurk in the mountains, but every so often they are seen venturing into the suburbs, and they are described as between 3 and 8 feet in height, with baboon or dog-like snouts and dark black hair. These hostile primates are said to sport long claws, pointy ears, and white hair from the neck to belly. Very strange sounding.
Say that again. White hair from the neck to the belly?
Yeah, that's what it says.
And there's been a sighting of more than just one?
Only the one around here, but they've been sighted in the Appalachians.
Oh, okay.
The Appalachians, they go all the way from Canada down to Tennessee, is it?
Something, yeah.
Something like that. So, what did it say? Baboon or dog-like snouts with black hair and white hair from the neck to the belly. I don't know. I have white hair, but it doesn't go down that far. But what makes the witnesses so frightened is not only that they appear out of place, but they have been reported to attack and sometimes kill small game, livestock, and dogs. And the Danville sighting was in September of 2001. It was in Danville, New Hampshire, and was the local fire chief at the time, Chief David Kimball. Maybe he still is. I don't know. But,
I don't know.
At the time, and 11 other people witnessed this hairy beast.
And what was the setting?
Well, it was witnessed near Pleasant Street and Kingston Road. And let's see, the monkey he's believed to have just jumped into the middle of the street. into the middle of the road and hopped a bit and then lunged away as Kimball drove down Kingston Road. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, of course, and he said later described the creature as being black monkey, measuring about 8 feet in length. I don't know why they keep saying in length rather than 8 feet tall. I'm not really sure what that means.
Maybe they're including its tail. It must have a tail.
From his tail to his hands. So, anyways, it's it's a very, very large, woolly, dark brown all over with a red hue. And after viewing a program on the Adventure Channel, Kimball believed that what he had seen was something called Humboldt's woolly monkey, which is native to the Amazon.
Amazon area?
Yeah, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And also Pleasant Street resident Vivian Wicker claimed to have heard the monkey hollering. It wasn't a sound they'd heard before, she said. She described it as hooting or a strange howling sound it made every couple of minutes. The residents of Danville were said to be getting very nervous about the 8-foot monkey. I can't imagine why. And on September 9th, search parties were formed to seek out the devil monkey. Though it was never found, it drew the attention from the national media. A human interest story was filmed and had been scheduled to air on the Today Show, but it never did, for some strange reason.
Really?
I wonder if the government has something to do with that. You know me, I always look to the government here to hide these things.
So it was scheduled to air and it never aired.
It was filmed and it was scheduled to air on the Today Show. I mean, that's national. But then it just never did. So that to me sounds rather strange and suspicious.
I wonder what the explanation was.
I wonder. But anyways, this was back in 2001, and that was it. It has never been seen again, but it was witnessed that night by the fire chief and by 11 other witnesses. So, I mean, it's not just like somebody was, staggering down the street from the bar.
Okay, so I'm kind of interested in how this this witnessing site went on. So 11 other witnesses, were they in a fire truck?
The story didn't tell me that. All it says is the fire chief and 11 other witnesses. So I don't know if they were other people that were driving by.
Following the fire truck?
I don't know. Was the chief in the fire truck, or was he on his way home?
Who knows?
I don't know.
But the odd thing is, other people have seen similar creatures in the Appalachian Mountains. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. It's apparently this creature has been seen since, what was it?
17 something, wasn't it?
Since 1923. It's been spotted in the Appalachian Mountains. And so, but the part I don't understand is if it is a creature that's native to the Amazon, what's it doing in the Appalachian Mountains in the first place?
I don't know.
Unless that part of it was just misidentified, maybe.
And then Danville.
And then Danville, New Hampshire.
You hear about portals and so forth, and you wonder if maybe there's something like that there, because it only being one, could someone have brought it up from South America?
Yeah, there's a thought. I mean, it's not like Danville is a big city.
No.
But it's not up in the mountains either.
No. That's why I'm thinking maybe it might be a portal type situation, which also occurs in the Bridgewater Triangle situation.
It does.
There are a lot of strange sightings there, which we're going to touch on tonight, as well as the Connecticut Skinwalker Ranch, so called by Paul and Ben Eno, that they've been investigating in Rhode Island. They've had a lot of strange creature sightings, cryptoids and whatnot.
Yeah. There've been strange creature sightings really everywhere.
All over the world, yeah. I mean, Linda Godfrey that we had on the show, she had a lot to say of sightings from Wisconsin and Michigan. And some were upright canids and others were more ape-like.
Yeah, I mean, even in New Hampshire, maybe,
I haven't heard a whole bunch of them in New Hampshire.
No, not a lot, but
really
there are the occasional sightings of even, Bigfoot. And,
Lauren Coleman's talked about that.
Lauren Coleman, yeah.
So it does happen here in Little New England and in New Hampshire.
Little old New England, right here in New Hampshire, and up there in Maine too, or down in Maine, whichever it is, depending on your perspective.
And if anybody's listening and has some kind of sighting that they'd like to talk about, please
Yes.
feel free to call in. We'd love to hear your story. Segueing from
And that number
Willy's
is,
story.
That number is 603-430-9722.
That's right.
You got to put that back.
Not everybody is a mind reader.
I know I am and you are, but, you know.
Well, our second story is called, most of the information is taken from The Devil of Great Island, which was written by Emerson W. Baker. And he lives here in New England. In fact, he lives in he lives in York, Maine, and he teaches in Salem, Massachusetts. And this is all about the case of lithobolia in Newcastle, New Hampshire. And I'm sure everybody's wondering what lithobolia is, and that is...
Yes, I was.
Yes, well, let me answer that for you. It's called the stone-throwing devil. It's really poltergeist activity that usually concentrates on missiles, something that is thrown. Often it's bricks or stone or something. And that is exactly what happened in Newcastle, New Hampshire in 1682. And this happened to primarily George Walton. Now, George Walton lived in Newcastle, as I mentioned, and he was a substantial landholder. And before I mention exactly what happened, this was witnessed and written about by Increase Mather, who was a minister at the time, and he wrote a book called Illustrious Providences in 1684, and he spoke about this. And another eyewitness was a man by, of all names, Richard Chamberlain, not Dr. Kildare, but this was Richard Chamberlain, who was an attorney, as well as the secretary of the colony of New Hampshire. And at the time he witnessed this, it had happened over a course of 3 months, but he witnessed the very first night that it happened. He was a boarder at George Walton's tavern in Newcastle. So what happened on the night of June 11th, 1682, George Walton was walking home late at night on a full moon with several companions, and suddenly they became pelted by stones. And of course they couldn't determine the source. They couldn't see anybody throwing anything, so they ran into the house, into the tavern, and Richard Chamberlain witnessed this. And then there were children up, apparently from all the noise. The stones stopped falling outside, and then they started falling in the house, just dropping from the ceiling, and yet they weren't in the ceiling. They were just materializing out of nowhere.
That's such a strange concept to try
It really is.
Figure.
I have heard of this before, this nature of poltergeist activity. So, as the story goes, George Walton was a big landholder, and he did everything that he could to attain land. He was in a lot of contentious situations with his neighbors, with the town. He was trying to acquire as much land as he could, and he was winning at it, too. Let me see. There was an older lady in town. Her name was Hannah Jones, and she was a widow, and some of George Walton's land bordered her property, and he wanted it. So he managed, I don't know how, but he managed to get her property, and she had said a couple of things to him. This was a protracted argument that they had, and she had mentioned that Walton would never occupy that land peacefully if he was going to take it from her. So during this time, as I said, a period of 3 months, the stones would appear. Whenever he left his house, he'd get pelted with stones. Sometimes it was tools. Sometimes he would leave and he would go out to the field to work, and all kinds of things would happen, like his posts would get pulled up, or his corn stalks were pulled up by the roots. Some of the hay that had been mowed up had been thrown into the trees, and all of this would happen while he was out there, but you couldn't see anybody doing it. And then finally, Hannah Jones George Walton believed that Hannah Jones was behind it because she had mentioned that she would throw stones at him if they had had several arguments, and she would throw stones at him if ever he talked about her mother in a derogatory manner. So it went on and on. And let me just mention here how he was perceived by his neighbors. George Walton spent much of his time and energy engaged in a series of protracted land disputes. It had taken him 14 years to secure his title at a place called Mosquito Neck. His 7-year effort to take common land at Fort Point suggests he had no compunction against trying to take what might not be his, and he was more than willing to resort to lengthy court cases to gain title if he did not get his way. He looked to extra-legal methods as destroying the road. For instance, he destroyed the road that the town had built over his land to make a point. So,
okay, well, that's one way to make a point, I guess.
He was considered a grasping, quarrelsome man who would resort to whatever means necessary to increase his property. George Walton was neither a Puritan nor a good neighbor, and his aggressiveness and greed helped him become the largest landowner on Great Island, which is Newcastle Island. That's considered Great Island. And he was one of the principal property owners in all of Portsmouth. So he was not only a wealthy landowner, he was not going to be outdone by a widow who wouldn't give up her land to him.
No, I guess not.
So, yeah, specifically she said, Hannah threatened to throw stones at him if ever he spoke ill of her mother. And George was supposed to be a good Quaker person. Well, on the other side, he had a lot of family strife. He and his wife, Alice, had 6 children. And by 1679, 4 of his children died as adults, and 3 of the son-in-laws died. So the Waltons were left with 9 grandchildren to take care of. So, he wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, but he and his wife were becoming elderly at this point.
Yeah.
And the town or the state, whatever it was, decided to farm a couple of them off to neighbors. So what happened was poor Hannah Jones was accused of being a witch, but she was found innocent. And she still lost her land.
It's one of those things. Once you're accused of being a witch, then, it's pretty much, whether you're actually found guilty or not, it's pretty much downhill from there.
Yeah, it's really a very sad story, but at any rate, the way that his neighbors felt about him and how it all ended, it didn't end really well. So there were many generations that had pointed to Hannah Jones as being the culprit during this whole affair, although not a single person witnessed what was happening. So a close look at the evidence suggests that she was innocent, and even if she was responsible for the lithobolia, for summoning the devil or whatever energy that took over, it's thought that most of the work might have been done by other people. But what's strange is all of this was happening while people were witnessing it, and no one saw the perpetrators.
Yes.
So, in fact, it's felt that Hannah might have been framed by some of her neighbors, if not just verbally. Maybe they didn't go to any extent to do anything. But at any rate, when all this was happening, there was just no shortage of possible suspects other than Jones, because in the summer of 1682, almost all the residents of Great Island had a very good reason to throw stones at George Walton.
Yeah, we'll get you. We'll stone you to death. Yeah.
But it did end with poor Hannah Jones. At least she got a pass to get out of jail, and she wasn't convicted as a witch.
Well, that's a good thing anyway.
But no one really knows what caused all those stones to go flying.
I know. They still say stones just falling out of the ceiling.
Very peculiar. And there was one episode where he got hit 40 times out in his field, and he continued to work. He would not give in to it. He was a cantankerous old coot.
I guess he must have been. It's raining rocks out in the field, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going.
You almost think,
I'm going to get this done.
Maybe he brought this on himself, and perhaps in some sense he did.
Maybe.
Very peculiar.
Yes, very peculiar.
But this is witnessed and then well documented by some, high-level people in the community. So it's not something that can be easily brushed under the carpet. And probably part of the reason that you don't hear a great deal about this is because 10 years later, the Salem witchcraft trials completely took over publicity as far as witchcraft is concerned. Just down the road a few miles in Salem.
Right.
And then there's, oddly enough, remember we went to a cemetery in Newbury? Or West Newbury? It was Newbury.
Newbury, where the witch is buried?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Her husband, I believe it's Christopher Morse, William Morse, is buried there. And then there is a headstone for his wife, and I'm forgetting, Elizabeth, that's what it is, Elizabeth Morse. And on the stone, it is a memorial to her, but it also states that she was not buried in sacred ground because they still believe she was a witch.
Right. She was buried just outside the cemetery wall somewhere.
I think that is where she wound up. But the reason I bring this up is they knew the Waltons, and they had some contentious situations with the Waltons, too.
Okay.
Isn't that odd?
Right.
I think the synchronicity is kind of strange.
Yeah. I don't know. These witches kind of show up, and I don't know. There's a connection there somewhere. Huh?
Yep. And she too, I don't believe she was convicted as a witch either, but she
That's
was
what I was just going to ask.
believed to be.
Remember, yeah.
So they didn't bury her in sacred ground. Sad tale.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of my tale. I bet you have another one.
Well, I do. And this one isn't so well documented with witnesses and all that. As a matter of fact, there are several different versions of the story.
Which you're talking about?
This is the one that's called the Little People's Village, or the Fairies Village, or the Demons Village.
Waterbury, Connecticut?
In Waterbury, Connecticut. And, like I say, there are several different versions to the story, so I'm just going to take the one that I like.
You might want to even mention both of them, but maybe you want to dig into that after the bottom of the hour.
Well, hey, that might just be a good idea since it is just about that time.
Okay.
So do we want to...
So keep our audience hanging here.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and do that? And this is Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, and we will be back in just a couple.
Supernatural Magazine, the UK's newest paranormal magazine, provides support to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. It is the magazine's goal to bring every aspect of supernatural news and research from around the world under one roof to create a universal platform for all those interested in the supernatural. More information is available at supernaturalmagazine.com. You are listening to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience on WSCA 106.1 FM, and we'll be right back after this short break. The video portion of Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, is sponsored by Spirit Chasers Paranormal, a paranormal investigation and research organization in Northampton, New Hampshire. Professional, respectful, courteous. Check us out at spiritchasersparanormal.com or email Willie at spiritchasersparanormal.com.
Welcome back to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience on WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End. And from the community calendar for chess lovers and anyone who wishes to learn, The Portsmouth Public Library offers drop-in chess every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Folks are able to match their chess skills against a challenger. There is no cost to attend, and all ages and skill levels are welcome. For more information, you can call 603-427-1540 or visit them online at cityofportsmouth.com/library. And from an underwriting announcement.
Yes, an underwriting announcement from Don't Diss My Disability, which is sponsored by our members, and by Full Circle Community Thrift Store, a nonprofit that uses store proceeds to help individuals living with cancer who find it difficult to maintain their homes and provide for their families, located on Route 236 in Elliott, Maine.
Okay, and do you have some upcoming guests?
I
Did
do.
you forget about the upcoming guests?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
no.
Oh, all right. Okay.
All
Wasn't
right.
sure.
Our guest coming up, let me see, for December 6th, for his third appearance on our show will be Brad Olson. He's the publisher and author of 7 books, and Brad will be discussing future esoteric, whose topics include ancient alien contact, conspiracy theories, and how to achieve personal power. On December 13th, we're welcoming back also Preston Dennett, who's a longtime MOVE-ON investigator and an author of many books on UFOs, and he'll be making his second appearance on Spirit Radio. December 20th, we've tentatively booked Dennis Stone. It almost looks like a go, and he's the operator of America's Stonehenge in Salem. And he'll be joining us to discuss the mysteries of this New Hampshire megalithic site. December 27th, we are going to be on holiday, so we're going to be airing a rerun of our show. On January 3rd, we'll be welcoming Merrill Frankhauser to Spirit Radio for his first appearance, and he studied extensively on what he believes to be an alien undersea base off the coast of Malibu, California. Pretty intriguing stuff.
Pretty intriguing. And he is also the gentleman who wrote the song Wipeout. I just have to throw that in there.
Yeah.
So okay. You had a kind of an interesting little side topic that you wanted to bring up.
Oh, yeah.
Some strange little epithets.
Some of the stories I've taken from Weird New England that was written by Joseph A. Citro, and in it he's got some odd epitaphs that he's picked up over the years, and these, of course, are all centered in New England. One is taken from a Kittery cemetery, Kittery, Maine, and the epitaph reads, "We can but mourn our loss, though wretched was his life. Death took him from the cross, erected by his wife."
And it's not like she was just waiting. When is he gonna go?
And another one comes from Enosburg Falls, Vermont. And this is regarding the Church family. And the note to this epitaph this is the historical note. Mr. Church outlived 4 of his wives and decided to move all of their remains closer to his home. During the digging, the remains of the 4 women became hopelessly entangled. Uh-oh.
I see trouble coming.
The epitaph reads, "Stranger, pause and drop a tear, for Emily Church lies buried here, mixed in some perplexing manner with Mary, Martha, and probably Hannah."
Okay, well, you might as well keep all the ex-wives in one place. Right?
Not ex-wives. I mean, they did die.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They
he treated them all the same.
They were ex-wives before they were dead wives, right?
Oops.
Whoop.
And next, this is a little sad tale.
Uh-oh.
This is really sad.
I don't
but
like sad tales, but go ahead.
It was well done. This is from Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. The epitaph reads, "Caroline Newcomb 1812, aged 4 months. She tasted life's bitter cup, refused to drink the portion up, but turned her little head aside, disgusted with the taste, and died. 4 months old.
Well, I know it.
That's sad.
It is sad.
Okay, and one more quick one.
Yeah, no. Let's have a happy, funny one. Maybe.
One last sarcastic one.
All right, sarcastic.
This is
that'll do.
Winslow, Maine, and this is in memory of Beza Wood, who departed this life November 2nd, 1837, aged 45 years. The epitaph reads, "Here lies one wood, enclosed in wood, one wood within another. The outer wood is very good. We cannot praise the other."
Okay, that's much better. I like that one.
I don't think Ms. Woods was very well thought of.
No, I don't think so either. I want to add just one little short one to that.
Oh, please do.
And this one, I can't say it was from New England because I don't remember where it was from, and I don't remember the name or the dates or anything like that, but that's really not important.
Oh, okay, please. Just really give it to us, Willie.
Just give it to us. It was the tombstone of
Tombstone in Tombstone, Arizona?
It could have been. I don't know. I don't know where it was. Of an auctioneer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you're probably going to see this one coming halfway through. But the epitaph on the stone read, "Going, going, going, gone."
Oh, that's a good one.
An auctioneer. Okay, well, obviously that didn't go that well with you, but maybe...
Hey, I'm laughing.
Maybe somebody else found some amusing. I thought it was amusing.
No,
an auctioneer.
Yeah.
Going, gone. Come on.
Cute.
All right. Okay.
Well, why don't you tell us about the fairy house?
Well, maybe I don't want to now.
Oh, no. Everybody's dying to know.
Okay. The fairy house. Some people call it the fairy house. Some call it the little people house. And some people call it the demon house. And this all took place near Waterbury, Connecticut. Not far west of Holy Land, it says. And that I don't understand. I've never heard of Holy Land in Connecticut.
There's a write-up in here, too. I haven't had a chance to read on it. But, it's in Connecticut as well.
So if anybody knows where Holy Land is, then...
It's near that.
Yeah, it's near that in Waterbury, Connecticut. And, it's all surrounded by major highways, residences, houses, and all that kind of stuff now. But long, long ago, deep in the forest in Waterbury, there was an elderly couple who lived alone. And there are several different versions of this story. In one version, it's the wife who hears the voices in the forest. In other versions, it's him who hears the voices in the forest.
So what do the voices say, Willie?
But they never told us what they actually said. But the whole idea was they were living out in the woods by themselves. Nobody else around. And I'm going to go with him. He would hear these voices out in the forest at night, and he didn't really understand what was going on. Until one night, finally, and he kept telling her, and she, okay, you go talk to your little friends. And one night, finally, he saw them, these little
creatures,
little people.
Like gnomes and fairies.
Like that, fairies, little mini demons, actually. And, so he said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to build some little houses for these
But is
people.
that how we described them, as demons? Like they look like demons?
Not in the beginning.
Oh.
But that's what he will learn later.
Oh.
As the story progresses.
Oh, if I'd let you finish. Never mind.
Okay. All right, where was I?
But will some of them look, you say in the beginning they looked like gnomes and fairies?
All I know is they were little.
Oh, okay.
There was not actually a description of what they looked like.
Okay.
They were little people. And so finally he saw these little people, and he talked to them, and they seemed like nice little people. So he says, I'm going to build some little houses for them. And so he did. He went out and he started going out in the woods and building the little houses.
Kind of like little doll houses?
Well, they were for little people, so, little people houses. And after a while, they seemed to like them. They started to move in, and they were living in their little houses.
Now, how do we know that they started to move in, Will?
Because I just told you. That's how we know.
This really is stretching the believability factor.
Well, isn't that what I said at the beginning? They're not all necessarily true stories, but they are strange stories. And you want me to just skip this, or do you want to hear the rest of
it? No, please continue.
I was going to anyway, regardless of what you said.
Okay, so the people moved in. Okay.
So he explained to his wife that they'd slept in them by day and only came out at night. His wife still had not seen these little people, but humored him since it all seemed harmless. With time, though, you stop laughing at me. With time, though, where did I
well, with time, they would come out at night, but they would sleep during the day.
Yeah, they sleep during the day.
Okay.
She humored him, but with time, though, the old woman noticed her husband began acting strangely. Yeah, building little houses for little people in the woods.
How was he
that
different?
wasn't strange. Now he's acting strange. Well, I don't know. So anyways, concerned, she asked him to stop building these little houses and spending so much time with his imaginary friends. Find yourself some real friends. Find some grown-ups, people you can go out and drink with or something. So anyway, the old man was upset by this and explained to her that they were real, not people, but little demons. I don't know when he decided they were demons. But he told her that if he stopped, they might be in danger. So I'm going to just have to keep building, and we're just going to see. But the old man continued construction and began building a throne for the king of the demons. And once the throne was complete, he invited his wife to see his fine craftsmanship. Fortunately, she was just a ploy by the old man to lure her to sit in the throne where he would kill her. He killed his wife in the throne.
Wait a minute. Who was going to get killed? The guy's wife?
He killed his wife. He brought her out in the woods to see the throne, to see his craftsmanship. But that was just a ploy.
Oh, no.
Actually, he brought her out there to kill her.
Oh.
Because that's what the demons had ordered him to do, to consummate the throne with the blood of his wife. And so then, anyway, after killing her, he began to realize that he was next.
And how did he come to that conclusion?
What have I done? Well, the demons no longer need me, and they're going to kill me too. So, in fear for his life, he quickly added bars onto the windows of his home before the next nightfall, and he locked himself safely inside. Unfortunately, though, this didn't help to protect him from the demons. Through the evening, he could hear their voices in his head, telling him to kill himself. Before daybreak, he went insane and fulfilled their wishes by hanging himself. So it is said if you drop by the village at night, you can still hear the voices of the demons lurking in the forest.
Oh.
So that's the version I like. I don't like the happy fairy version where everybody lives happily ever after.
Well, they've got a couple of versions where she was the crazy one and she saw the beings. Now, Tom D'Agostino.
Just seeing little people, does that make it crazy?
I don't know.
Building little houses for them, that might. But
there are far more things that we don't know about, in heaven and earth.
Yes, it's true.
But it is an odd story. Now, Tom D'Agostino wrote about that, Tom and Arlene.
Yes, they did.
In one of his books, Legends About New England.
Right, and I believe that's where the version where she was the one that was hearing the voices.
But these little houses still exist in Waterbury, right? Connecticut?
Waterbury, yeah. Yep.
Or just outside of Waterbury, Connecticut.
Yeah, at one time it was like a little tourist attraction, wasn't it?
Tourist attraction.
Yeah. So apparently, I guess the bottom line of the story is...
It stood the test of time.
Yeah, the houses really do exist, but, did the little people really exist, or was the guy just a little bit off his rocker?
I don't know.
Or maybe it was his wife. Maybe she told him, I want you to get out there and build little houses in the woods. But why? Just because I told you so. You know, I mean, who knows? Who knows? So that's my my little fairy demon story.
Well, it did have some comic relief.
It broke the ice, huh?
Yeah. Well, I've
Okay,
got a story to counter that.
Okay, we got 6 minutes left, so let's...
Okay, well, maybe we can squeeze in a couple of things here. My story next is taken from, again, Weird New England, written by Joseph A. Citro. And this is a story that I've also read in one of the publications by Raymond E. Fowler, who is a quintessential UFO abduction investigator. And Men in Black are often a part of the UFO investigation events. So this is called MIBs in Maine, which is Men in Black in Maine. This happened, no less, in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. And it happened on September 11th of 1976. There was a doctor by the name of Herbert Hopkins. He was 58 years old. He was just a regular medical doctor, probably a family physician at the time. Most of them were. And what he was doing, he was counseling a patient of his, and he was regressing him hypnotically, trying to put together the pieces of his abduction puzzle. The patient felt that he had been abducted. So for that evening, during the day, he performed the hypnosis, he recorded it on tape, and then he went home. And he was home alone that evening. His wife and his children were out. Well, he gets a phone call. And the guy on the other end of the line says that he's the vice president of the New Jersey UFO Research Organization. And he said, perhaps I can help you out with your UFO investigation case. And Dr. Hopkins is thinking to himself, boy, that's quick. I just, regressed this guy today and talked to him, and now a couple of hours later, I've got this UFO guy on the phone knowing about the abduction case. So he hangs up. He said go ahead.
I was just going to say, already something about this story
it's strange.
Is getting a little off course here.
So he hangs up from talking to the vice president of this organization, only he hears someone coming up his front steps. He answers the door, and it's the investigator. He didn't waste any time getting over to his house. So he lets the guy in. The guy is oddly dressed. He's got like a black bolo hat, black tie, a black suit, black socks, black shoes, and a white shirt. So he comes in, he starts talking to Dr. Hopkins. He takes off his hat, and he said the man was not only bald, but he was hairless. He had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and no visible facial hair. So they're talking about the abduction case, and he's bringing up points that the doctor they hadn't been released, and they had just been revealed through the hypnosis. And as the visitor is talking, he happens to brush his hand across his lips, and he has lipstick smeared all over his fingers. So the whole scenario is just very odd. And then as they're talking, the visitor decides to kind of change the subject, and he says, you've got two coins in your pocket, don't you? And the doctor said, well, yes, I do. He said, why don't you pull one of them out and stare at it? And the doctor thought, well, this is, some cheap parlor trick, but yeah, okay.
I'll fall for it.
Yeah, so he pulls it out. He looks at the coin, and the coin starts fading. It starts getting blurry. It fades. It changes color all the time while the lines in his hands remain distinct. He said all of a sudden it disappeared before his eyes. And then the stranger says to him, neither you nor anyone else on this planet will ever see that coin again. That's pretty bizarre.
That is pretty bizarre, but I have a feeling it's going to get even more bizarre.
Well, it is very strange because then this man says to him, by the way, do you know about Benny and Barney Hill from Portsmouth, who were abducted by aliens in New Hampshire in 1961. And the doctor says, yes, I'm familiar with him. He says, didn't Barney just pass away recently? And the visitor said, yes, he did. And the doctor said, the alien said, or I should say, the visitor said, do you know what he died from? And the doctor said, I believe he died from a heart attack, right? And the visitor said, that's not exactly the case. Barney Hill knew too much. And with that, well, go ahead.
It's just, Barney Hill knew too much.
Barney Hill knew too much.
The Men in Black. It all comes together, doesn't it?
And then suddenly, not so suddenly, the visitor starts talking slowly, and he says to Dr. Hopkins, I'm going to have to leave. My energy is running out. He turns around, he stumbles to the door because he could barely walk now, and he leaves. Well, when his wife and his children came home, he's seated at the kitchen table, and he's got a gun beside him. And he tells his wife the story, and he tells her that he's decided to fulfill two of the requests that the visitor had asked. And that was to erase the tapes and to withdraw from the abduction case. And that he did. And the end of the story is, once he agreed to do that, he decided that he'd try and investigate this guy. So he looked up the New Jersey UFO Investigation Organization, Research Organization, and it never existed.
Okay.
Pretty strange, isn't it?
Pretty strange. Yeah.
So this is well documented, a man with a high profile in the community.
Yeah. I see cover-up. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's what it smells of.
Absolutely. Men in Black, cover-up, and Barney Hill knew too much.
And Barney Hill knew too much.
Yeah, I don't think there's much question about that.
So there are a lot of strange things that happen in New Hampshire.
And New England.
And New England in general.
Everywhere else. And you know what? We had another big one, and we don't even have time for it.
Oh, darn it.
We were going to get into the Bridgewater Triangle down in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But we're just not going to have time tonight. But, that's okay, because that's a whole show in itself that we can do some night.
That's quite a big story.
But it does remind me, though, I just want to say hi to Buddy in Dedham, Massachusetts, and thank you for listening. And so anyway, I guess that takes care of it.
Is that another show? The end of another show?
Yeah, the end of another show. That is Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience for another week.
And we'll be back next week with Brad Olson. And
we will.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and good night.